before you were taught your name, before you learned to be polite, to sit still, to follow rules. You were something vast, a current of energy, a spark wrapped in light, a presence unshaped by labels, untouched by shame, unafraid to be seen. But the world isn't built for vastness. It's built for containment. So slowly, gently, and then all at once you began to forget. Not in one moment, but in 1,000 quiet ways. You were told who you were. You were told what was possible. You were told what to believe, what to want, what to fear. And you, like all of us, believed it. Because the voice was loud. Because the system was everywhere. Because no one around you remembered either. This forgetting wasn't your fault. It was passed down. From generation to generation, a lineage not of blood but of amnesia. We inherited cages made of ideas. Be realistic. Don't stand out. Do what you're told. Play it safe. Fit in. You're too much. You're not enough. And little by little, you abandoned the wildness. You traded your flame for permission. You replaced truth with acceptance. You started asking questions not with wonder but with fear. You stopped hearing the voice inside that said, "We came here for more than this." And the more you forgot, the more lost you felt. But here's the secret the world never told you. You didn't lose your power. You didn't break. You didn't fail. You were conditioned. You were trained to forget. Because a person who remembers is dangerous. A person who remembers doesn't need external validation. They don't consume to fill a hole. They don't obey blindly. They create. And creation is unpredictable. It's wild. It's divine. So the system, schools, media, politics, religion, algorithms, they all work together to do one thing: to keep you asleep, to keep you doubting, seeking, surviving, instead of awakening. But something changed. You started to feel the cracks. The narrative stopped working. The distractions lost flavor. The old versions of you couldn't hold your soul anymore. And that means the amnesia is ending. You are not waking up because someone is saving you. You are waking up because you're done pretending to be asleep. This is the beginning of remembering. And every step from here is a return. You were never powerless, but you were taught to feel that way. Not through chains or threats, but through something far more effective: repetition. The same story, told over and over until it became the voice in your own head. You're not ready. You don't know enough. You don't matter. You can't change anything. This is how the world keeps you small, not with force, but with permission structures. You're allowed to exist. You're allowed to survive. You're even allowed to succeed, but only within the lines. Step beyond that, you're crazy. You're arrogant. You're a threat. But here's the truth. Powerlessness is a program. It's installed early, reinforced daily, rewarded socially. And the program has only one purpose: to convince you that your power lies outside of you. In money, in status, in someone's approval, in being accepted, chosen, validated, liked. So you chase shadows. You grind. You conform. You exhaust yourself trying to become something you already were, before they told you to be anything at all. Real power isn't given. It's not inherited. It's not earned through suffering. It's reclaimed. And reclamation begins the moment you see through the illusion. Asterisk, that your worth is negotiable. Asterisk, that your energy belongs to others. Asterisk, that you need permission to be what you already are. They taught you to fear your own power. Why? Because a person who remembers their sovereignty cannot be controlled. They cannot be manipulated by fear, shame, comparison, or guilt. They don't need systems to define them. They define systems. True power is presence. It is not loud. It does not dominate. It simply is. It speaks through calm. It moves with clarity. It disrupts simply by existing outside the script. And that is the greatest threat to the illusion of powerlessness. Someone who doesn't play the game and still wins. You don't need to fight the system. You just need to stop believing it defines you. Because the illusion only holds power as long as you keep feeding it. Withdraw your belief and watch it vanish. Power is not a feeling. It is not a mood, a title, or a performance. Power is attention. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. And where your energy flows, your reality forms. It's that simple. But simplicity is dangerous. Because once you realize that your energy is your most valuable resource, everything that wants to control you will try to steal it. Look around. Asterisk news cycles built to trigger your nervous system. Asterisk social media designed to keep you comparing. Asterisk notifications engineered to spike dopamine and fragment focus. Asterisk fear campaigns disguised as safety. Asterisk advertisements selling you a solution to a problem they created. Every one of these things has one goal: to capture your attention so they can direct your energy. And it works. Because when you give your focus away to fear, drama, outrage, or fantasy, you are feeding a system that thrives on your fragmentation. And the more fragmented you are, the easier you are to control. But here's what they don't want you to remember. Your energy is your currency. Your attention is your vote. Your focus is your magic. When you give your energy to distraction, you weaken. When you give it to purpose, you sharpen. When you center it within, you activate. This is the real alchemy. Not turning lead into gold, but turning scattered attention into focused creation. Turning unconscious reaction into conscious direction. You don't need more hours in the day. You don't need more motivation. You need to reclaim your attention. That's where your power has always been. Not in how hard you try, but in how clearly you choose. So ask yourself, asterisk, who has your attention right now? Asterisk, who benefits when you're anxious, confused, or numb? Asterisk, who profits from your self-doubt? Now ask, asterisk, what would happen if you pulled all of that energy back into yourself? Asterisk, what could you build, become, or remember with all that power returned? The mechanics are not mystical. They're energetic, intentional. Power is not out there. Power is where you place your attention and what you're willing to stop feeding. The moment you stop giving energy to things that weaken you, you don't become powerful. You realize you already were. The greatest trick ever played wasn't hiding the truth, it was inverting it. Making light look weak, making silence look empty, making power look dangerous, making obedience look virtuous, and above all, making truth look like a threat. You were born into a world where everything is backwards. Asterisk strength is called aggression. Asterisk clarity is called arrogance. Asterisk sovereignty is called rebellion. Asterisk stillness is called laziness. Asterisk feeling deeply is labeled as too much. Asterisk and the ones who question are told to be quiet. This is no accident, because if you saw clearly, if you really remembered, you wouldn't just walk differently. You would change everything you touch. And the system can't handle that. So it twists. It teaches you that being small is humble, that being silent is polite, that keeping the peace is more important than living your truth. It teaches you to fear your own light and to call your wounds virtue. But here's the secret. Power doesn't scream, it doesn't perform, it doesn't chase. True power is quiet. It doesn't need to convince anyone. It simply stands. And everything false begins to tremble in its presence. That's why systems of control invert reality. Because they can't defeat truth, they can only distort it long enough to keep you from recognizing it. But if you're reading this, you're already seeing through the veil. You're noticing what others ignore. You're questioning the scripts that once felt permanent. And that means you're dangerous in the most sacred way. You don't need to fight the lie. You only need to embody the truth so clearly that the lie collapses on contact. You want to reclaim your power? Stop looking for it in the external and start removing what never belonged to you. Asterisk, the guilt. Asterisk, the programming. Asterisk, the stories. Asterisk, the shame. Everything you were taught to be was designed to keep you forgetful. But now, you are remembering. And when you remember who you are, not the version they gave you, but the one before that, the inversion ends, the illusion breaks, and truth stands on its own. There is a fire inside you, not metaphor, not poetry, reality. It was there before the trauma, before the fear, before the noise, before they gave you a name, a label, a list of expectations. There was only one thing: presence. You didn't ask for permission to exist. You didn't need to justify your joy. You burned effortlessly, silently, radiantly. And then, life happened. You were told to tone it down, to be careful, to not feel so much, to not ask too many questions. So you did what any soul would do in a world that fears light. You covered the flame to survive. You wrapped it in masks, in armor, in silence. You forgot that it was even there. But fire doesn't die in the dark. It waits. And if you're here reading this, it's because your fire is stirring. It's why nothing satisfies you, why old roles feel empty, why success without soul feels hollow, why something deeper keeps whispering, "This isn't all there is." Because it's not. You were never meant to live disconnected, disempowered, domesticated. You were meant to remember. Not by reading more, not by fixing yourself, but by letting go of everything that told you to forget. The inner fire doesn't need to be found, it needs to be uncovered. And that means asterisk, feeling what you were taught to suppress. Asterisk, speaking what you were told to silence. Asterisk, choosing what you were afraid to want. Asterisk, becoming who you always were before you learned who to pretend to be. The fire is not loud. It is not dramatic. It's still. It's quiet. But when it moves, nothing around it stays the same. Because when you remember that fire, you stop negotiating your worth. You stop explaining your truth. You stop outsourcing your intuition. And most of all, you stop asking for what you were born to embody. The world doesn't need more people trying to find themselves. It needs more people willing to remember the wild, radiant, unstoppable fire they've always carried. And that fire? It's not a gift. It's your birthright. There comes a moment on the path when you stop asking the world who you are. You stop waiting for signs. You stop seeking permission. You stop outsourcing your power. And instead, you stand still. Not because you found the answer, but because you've remembered that the answer was never outside you to begin with. This is the return of the sovereign. Not a king, not a queen, not a ruler over others, a ruler of self. Sovereignty is not dominance. It is presence without need, clarity without explanation, truth without performance. The sovereign is not loud. They do not beg. They do not fight to prove, because they remember what they are. And when you remember what you are, everything else begins to realign. You stop reacting. You start choosing. You stop pleasing. You start creating. You stop leaking energy into identities that no longer serve, and start pouring it into a life that reflects your essence, not your conditioning. This shift is not gradual. It may feel like a collapse, a death, a quiet shedding of everything you thought you were. And in that stillness, something ancient stirs. The part of you that has lived 1,000 lives, the part that was never touched by trauma, fear, or programming, the part that knows, that has always known. You stop saying, "I'm trying," and begin saying, "I am." You stop following, chasing, adjusting, and instead begin radiating. You walk into a room differently, not to impress, not to take, but simply to be, and in your being, you change the space. This is not arrogance. It's energetic integrity. You are no longer carrying the weight of who the world told you to be. You are no longer performing the role of acceptable. You are no longer dimming, distorting, or delaying your light. You've returned to the throne that was always waiting for you. Not a golden seat in some palace, but the quiet, unshakable center within your own chest, where decisions come from alignment, where truth is felt, not debated, where nothing can be taken because nothing is borrowed. You are not becoming sovereign. You always were. You simply had to remember. There is no ceremony, no priest, no final test to prove you are ready. The only initiation that ever truly mattered is choice. Not the kind you make once and forget, but the kind you make every single day, in silence with your breath, your focus, your presence. Because every moment is a crossroad. You are always choosing between asterisk fear or truth, asterisk reaction or response, asterisk distraction or alignment, asterisk waiting or creating. And that choice is the ritual. You don't need to be initiated into a mystery school. You already live in one your life. You don't need to be anointed by someone in robes. You anoint yourself every time you act from your essence. Every no you say to what dims you. Every yes you whisper to what ignites you. Every boundary you hold, every pattern you end, every illusion you drop. These are your initiations. They are not dramatic. They are not cinematic. They are quiet thresholds, passed in the unseen. And each one brings you deeper into who you actually are. The world wants you to wait. Wait for the right time. Wait for the perfect plan. Wait for clarity. Wait for proof. Wait for permission. But waiting is a decision too. And it delays your life in the name of fear, dressed as logic. There is no perfect moment. There is only this moment. And in this moment, you are being asked, will you choose yourself, not the version they gave you, not the one molded by guilt, fear, or shame, but the real you, the one before the forgetting? Will you choose your truth, even if it costs you the comfort of the known? Will you choose your fire, even if no one understands it? Because this is it. Not a theory, not a metaphor, not a performance. This is initiation through choice, and no one can walk it for you. You choose. You become. You remember. And with each choice, the illusion loses grip, the cage opens, and you step into the power you were never meant to forget. You've looked everywhere. You've searched through books, teachings, practices, systems. You've tried becoming someone else, fixing what was never broken, healing what was never truly yours. And now, here you are, at the end of the search and the beginning of the truth. You never needed to find your power. You only needed to stop giving it away. Not to people, not to systems, not to fear, not even to your past. Because the truth is, you were never missing. You were never behind. You were never broken. You were simply buried beneath stories that weren't yours. But the flame, it never went out. It was waiting beneath the noise, beneath the shame, beneath the waiting. Waiting for the moment you would finally remember. You are not here to play small. You are not here to ask permission. You are not here to survive quietly. You are here to remember what it means to stand in your own frequency fully, unapologetically, clearly. That is power. Not something loud, not something outside, not something they can give or take, but something you've had all along. And now you see it. You feel it in your bones. You recognize it in your breath. You remember it in the silence between thoughts. This was never about becoming someone else. It was about returning to the one you've always been. So what comes next? That's not this video's job. Because this is the last one you'll need. Not because there's nothing more to learn, but because the one who needed the answers has dissolved. And the one who remains doesn't chase power. They embody it. Welcome back. You are not the seeker anymore. You are the source.